Okay, there is a new Braum build that's making the rounds, and we're going to be taking a look at it today and trying to figure out whether it is worth going or not. Basically, the idea is that you build Warmog's second item, and you utilize certain runes in order to get the item online as quickly as possible. And you also use runes in Genius Hunter, which actually affects how long you have to be out of combat in order for Warmogs to start activating, and you use that to get it to go off very quickly. So we'll take a look at that. So currently the way Warmogs works is you need to have 1300 bonus HP in order to be able to use it at all, which is quite a lot, and usually means that you'd need multiple items and that sort of thing to get it to go off. But the support item gives 200 HP, so if you go Locket and then Warmogs, you're actually able to get access to the item quite quickly. In combination with runes like Overgrowth and health scaling runes, you get just enough HP between those things in order to hit the 1300 threshold. And then the second piece of this is that Warmogs actually has a very short time that you need to be out of combat in order for it to activate. So it's 6 seconds since you last took damage from enemy champions, and it's 3 seconds since you last took damage from minions or neutral objectives like Baron, Rift Herald, that sort of thing. So with Ingenious Hunter, the item haste that you get from that rune, which is up to 50 item haste, which is quite a lot, actually applies to the duration of time that you need to be out of combat for Warmogs to start activating. And this is something that I don't think a lot of people have thought about before. And so that's something that we're looking into. Is it possible to cut the time down from 6 seconds to a little bit longer than 3 seconds so that you could actually, maybe during even the middle of a team fight, walk out and regen some HP and then re-enter the fight and have healed more from Warmogs than you would get from a redemption or something, for example. That's basically the possibility. Now, the other scenario would be that you enter a skirmish and you lose a bunch of HP, but then you're able to stay on the map and re-enter another skirmish because of Warmogs. And so primarily there's a lot of players that have been testing this on Braum specifically, but I've already seen this concept spread out to other champions. I've seen multiple games so far in Masters Plus on NA where for some reason Zillion players happen to be doing this. I'm not really sure why it's being popularized on that champion, but Blocks is one of the players who's playing a lot of this on Braum, and we can kind of take a look at how it's going. But to get into the rune setup here first, so obviously you would go Locket, and you can go any support item, but on Braum you're going to go like Solstice Slay. And for runes, you're going to need Ingenious Hunter, so you go something like this. And you need to have Overgrowth. Those are really the only requirements. So some people are taking like a Hail of Blades page that's more like this. So this is a page you could go. And then if you're taking Guardian, you would go a page like this. And now for the scaling health, most people are taking double scaling health, but you actually get enough from the Overgrowth rune that you can take this one flat health, and it's not going to delay Warmogs coming online. And I like to take this as I explained in the Braum guide, because in solo queue, the scaling health becomes better at level 7 than the flat health. But you're going to fight a lot. There's probably going to be an all-in and bot lane and solo queue before level 7, and so it's better in that scenario to have the flat health, and so that's why I like to take it. Now, so this is the rune setup that allows you to do that, and then obviously if we get into Ingenious Hunter, it gives you 20 flat item haste, and then you get 6 additional item haste per unique kill or assist that you get. Oh, sorry. I was just reading here that it says that it includes trinkets, but that's the item haste applies to trinkets. It's not stacking from trinkets. I don't know why I thought that. But anyway, so you get Ingenious Hunter, and 6 stacks times 5 champions will give you an additional 30 item haste. And so when you're at, 5 stacks, you're going to be at 50 item haste, which is quite a lot. Now it's haste, not cooldown reduction, so obviously it's not going to be exactly 50%. It's going to be a little bit less. But again, that would take the Warmog's cooldown down to something like 3 seconds. Now, and it also works on the one against minions, right? So the one against minions and monsters would go from 3 seconds to 1.5 seconds as well. So we can take a look here at how this is going for some of the people who have tried this. So one of the problems I'm noticing with the build is that it is very, very, very expensive. And so if we just take a look at Block's match history here, we can go back and look. I mean, you can see that there are a lot of games where he's just straight up not completing the item. Like this game didn't complete the item, didn't complete the item. We completed it, didn't complete the item, completed it. This game he went Thornmail first, so that's whatever. And this game he is no longer going that build or going something else this game, trying something else. So you can see that there's actually quite a decent number of games where you're not completing the item. And that's a huge problem, because even if you were to make the argument that the passive is better than another option that you could go, like a Redemption or a Rookern or a Frozen Heart, even if it's better, if you don't complete it, or you complete it much later on and you get to use those other items 4 or 5 times or something before you would get this item, it's not that good, is it? And so that's one of the big disadvantages, is obviously this is a 3,100 gold item, and so it has to provide a amazing amount of value in order to be better than an item that costs 2,300 like Redemption, but provides, Redemption provides similar value to Locket in terms of how much, it's able to block / heal for your team during a fight. And so that ends up being a huge issue for the item. It doesn't really matter how good it is if we don't end up completing it. The other thing is that even in the games where we do end up completing it, obviously, as you can imagine, we're waiting 5 or 6 minutes over other item choices to complete it because it's expensive. And that's going to mean that in the cases where we do complete it, we might complete it at the end of the game and get to use it 1 or 2 times or not at all, even if we buy the item and finish completing it. So that's a huge problem as well. Another issue is that because you have to take certain runes in order to go this, you sacrifice other runes that do a lot of stuff, right? And one of those that you have to sacrifice is you can't go Inspirations because you need Overgrowth and you need Ingenious Hunter to make this work. So you have to go red and blue, red and green in some sort of combination. So you can't get Inspiration. So you can never get Magical Footwear, which means that actually, like I talked about in the Braum guide, you want that rune to accelerate your build, but actually with this you're decelerating your build because you have to spend the money on boots on your own and are not able to take any gold acceleration runes. So you're not able to take Magical Footwear, and you can't take Ultimate Hunter, you can't take Treasure Hunter either, because that one is in the same row as Ingenious Hunter, and so you can't take it. This is, a really big downside. I mean, one of the best advantages of the Hail of Blades Braum page is that you can get both Magical Footwear and Treasure Hunter in the same rune page, which is something that you can't do with the Guardian page. You're only able to get one or the other. And so the Hail of Blades Braum page has the best build acceleration of any runes in the game for Braum. And you lose both of those by going this build. And so you'd need a tremendous amount of value from it. So it's not only is it like 800 gold more expensive than Redemption, but if you consider the cost of not having Magical Footwear, it's more like 1100 gold. So that's really tough. Now here's the other problem. So I also tested this out, and I built it in 3 games, and I was able to complete it in all 3 games. But in these 2 games, I bought it right at the end of the game and never got any usage out of it whatsoever. And that's in a 25 and a 26 minute game for my second item. And in this 29-minute game, I was able to get it in time for one fight, but I wasn't able to back out of the fight and actually get the item to activate. I just ended up fighting the whole time and dying. And it wasn't really like I tried to back out, but somebody ended up chasing me and my team went in or something like that. And so there was no way out for me and I ended up dying. And we win the fight and end the game, but again, no value out of the item. And you may think, well, you know, me trying it for 3 games and like Blocks having it for a couple of games or whatever, like maybe this isn't a huge sample size, so it's kind of hard to tell how the item's performing when there's so few scenarios that we're actually seeing it in, right? And that's true, but here's the thing. With Locket Redemption, I'm getting the items almost every single game and always getting great use out of both of them. I rarely ever feel like I'm building Locket Redemption and I'm just like, you know, half of my games I'm never completing Redemption second item and getting a couple of uses out of it, because it's cheap enough that you can actually get great value out of it before the game ends, and that's really crucial. Also, by the way, on the horizon, they're looking to change the support items so that you stop getting gold from the quest at 800 instead of 1,000, and that is effectively going to mean, right, that we're losing 200 gold on support, and that's going to be even worse for a build like this to try to get all the way to Warmogs. Now, that being said, it's an interesting concept, and we're going to take a look at it in game. But I noticed the same thing with Blocks, is a lot of these item completions are right before the end of the game, and you can take a look at that like in here. This is a 29-minute game, so I'm assuming he completed this a little bit before, so he got this at 22 minutes. But basically, so these ones 5 days ago, we can't look at the replays because they were on a previous patch. And so we've only got these games. And this game, he went a different build. He tried Iceborne Gauntlet. This game, he went Thornmail second, and so didn't end up completing the item. This game, he did complete the item, but he took the wrong runes, so he didn't have Ingenious Hunter, so we're not going to be able to look at that replay. This game, he also didn't complete the item. Also looks like, I don't know what he's building here. Maybe he's going Knight's Vow or something. It looks like he might not even be going Warmogs here because of the cloth armor. Maybe he just picked up an extra cloth armor on accident or something. I don't know. Or at the end of the game, maybe. Like Defending Fountain. Let's see here. And then this game is the one that we're actually going to take a look at. Is the only game where he completed the item and we see some usage out of it. So we'll take a look at this replay. Now, that being said, even if you're not super interested in it on Braum or on support, I think the best applications of this are probably for champions that would normally use Warmogs, like tank top laners and stuff like that. So I think that the discovery of using Ingenious Hunter to get Warmogs down to like a 3-second activation time is pretty good, but it's best utilized by full tank champions, maybe in the jungle or in top lane, that could potentially utilize the item and the runes better. And so if you're interested in trying it in those roles, that makes sense, but in support I don't think it's looking so good. So let's take a look at these replays and see, or one replay that we have, and see what happened with the item here. Okay, so let's skip to later in the game when he actually has the item. Coming up on completing it here. Okay, he's just bought it here. Okay, so he's just bought the item here, and we're just gonna, watch through and see what kind of value he's getting out of the item in this game. Keeping in mind that I played 3 games on it, and he's played multiple games trying to build it, and this is the only game where we see it actually being used to do anything. So keeping that in mind, I mean, even if he gets good value out of it this game, this is like 1 in 10 games we're actually getting some sort of value out of it. So it's already looking pretty doomed. Okay, so he's going to get hit here. And I'll hold this up too so you can see Warmogs ticking here. So this is constantly, you know, refreshing that it's not activating because he's getting hit constantly here. So he's getting hit again before it activates. But he lives here with only about 200 HP. And with Warmogs, you have about 3,000 HP on Braum. So if he heals to full here, he will get about 3,000 healing out of it. But again, it's 3,000 healing while their whole team's dead. So the question is, even if you heal for, you know, he healed for about 2,000 or a little bit more than 2,000 here with Warmogs, what does this actually do? They would have gotten this inhib either way, and they don't end up, you know, fighting again after this or something like that. He should probably just recall here, right? Which he does. So it doesn't really change anything. And that's why it's really important to talk about, you know, transformative value into the game. You know, another thing that's worth noting is even if Warmogs can heal as much as a redemption or something, redemption is able to heal your teammates, whereas Warmogs is only healing you. And we know, right, that our teammates' more HP is more valuable than ours as a support, especially as a tank support like Braum. The champion's literally designed to trade his HP for his teammates' HP. So, you know, that one should be obvious. So he walks in here. This is not looking good. But he's going to take a bunch of damage here, which he'll probably be able to heal from Warmogs. So, I mean, he's at, you know, 1,000 HP. Oh, no, he's really low. He's at 100 HP. About 100 to 200 HP. So if he heals here, which we can see, Warmogs just kicked in. And that kind of gives you a sense of the timing. Although he almost put himself back in combat there. So he was able to heal from 200 HP to like 1,500. And because of that, he was able to get onto the Aphelios here. So this is, I think this play is the only example that we have from any of the games that I played on the items, or any of the games from this patch that he's played on the item, where it had some sort of value. You can see he healed all the way to full here from half as well. But they're just going to take the inhib and probably back off here again. Oh, I guess they're fighting the Shen. I think he's just dead. So, I mean, he heals to full here, but you can see even healing to full here doesn't really do anything. It just encourages the overstay into the enemy respawn timers. So that's not great. It's unfortunate it doesn't show how much it's healed too. But again, I think there's a big difference between, you know, the in-combat type of healing and shielding that you get with Locket Redemption, being able to apply it to your teammates, versus an item like Warmogs where it's only healing yourself. You know, another thing I'll note about the item too is a lot of people probably, you know, this was a trap I fell into a lot when I, now Blocks is Grandmaster, so this isn't directed at Blocks, but a lot of people really like health because you can look at your champion and see that you are tankier. And it feels good when you have a lot of health as a tank. But, you know, there's just math on whether buying armor and magic resist versus buying health is good. And we actually know that at these sorts of HP values, Braum with Warmog's second item is way over indexed on health. And so you'd actually be much tankier, you know, if you have a Canik Rooker and if you have a Frozen Heart, than if you have Warmogs. So, I mean, you can see here he's missing about 1,000 HP, maybe a little bit less. maybe 800, and he's able to heal to full off of that after the Baron. But at this point, the game's kind of over and the item's not doing anything. So they're just going to walk in and end the game, I think. So look, this can totally happen with Redemption 2, where you just have a game where the item doesn't provide a whole lot of value, in terms of the way it's actually affecting the game. But I will say that we're not just talking about, one game. Again, to go back to this, we're talking about, 1, 2, 3 games he tried to build it here. I guess you can say that maybe him trying to build a third item here doesn't count because of this. I built it 3 games and didn't get any value out of it. It is a small sample size, but here's the thing. Even on like 8 games or something like that, you'd never see Redemption perform this poorly as a second item over 8 games. Basically, the cost is so prohibitive on support that you're just not completing the item half of your games. Maybe it's more like 40% of your games you're not completing the item. And when you do complete the item, you're completing it enough to use it, 1 or 2 or 3 times. And those 1 or 2 or 3 times you're using it are mostly just going to be you team fight, you win the fight, and then you heal all your HP while you're, taking down their Nexus turrets or their inhibitor turrets or something like that after you've already won the fight, and then you just end up recalling anyways. So it's not having that transformative value into the game like we talk about. Whereas a Redemption, you can use in the middle of a team fight and swing fights. Even a Canik Rookern, right, the value that you get is not coming after the fight is over. It's blocking, 360 damage roughly for you in a fight as a second item on Braum. Or Frozen Heart, right, is going to reduce the enemy damage if you're building it in a good situation. The calculation we came to was if you have 1 attack speed reliant champion on the enemy team who's dealing 2,000 damage, which would be about, killing about 1 person a fight, then if they have 1.6 attack speed reliant champions on their team, Frozen Heart provides that same value second item as Canik Rookern does. Now, another way to think about that, because that's kind of complicated, is obviously just if they have 2 or more attack speed champions, Frozen Heart's better than Rookern. Another way to think about that is even if they have 1 attack speed champion, but instead of doing 2,000 damage, that 1 attack speed champion does 3,200 damage, which would be 1.6 times 2,000, then Frozen Heart is better than Rookern. The value that you're getting from Frozen Heart in the middle of a team fight, or Rookern, or Redemption, or Locket, is these 4 items are so strong that you have to get that value out of Warmogs. And even if you're healing for 1,000 or 2,000 after every fight on Warmogs, when is that translating into something? Now, we saw in this game, maybe that translated into like 1 kill potentially on the Aphelios because he was able to stay and re-enter the fight. But it may have also baited him into overstaying when they, fought in the enemy base. So, and again, if you're talking about 8 games, this is the one instance I can find where the item actually had some sort of positive impact in practice in the game. If you have Redemption, if you're building Locket Redemption, you're going to complete it 90% of your games on Braum, 95% of your games. And definitely in 8 games, you're going to have some sort of, game-changing play because of a Redemption usage in a team fight. This is the other thing, is just because an item provides twice the value as another item, doesn't mean that item is better if you don't get it until way later on. And so we'll get into that very specifically. Let's say that on average you're able to do, so this would be a slightly better, but just to play with the numbers so they're easier. let's say that you get a slightly better than average redemption every time, which is like 500 healing. That's not even that hard. It's like 2 or 3 people healed with redemption fully in a fight. Keeping in mind that also if you hit an enemy, it does 10% max HP true damage. So even if you were to like heal 1 or 2 people on your team and like hit 1 or 2 enemies, that would be the same, like roughly a 500 damage value. If you have that, and you compare that to healing 1,000 on Warmogs, right? Even if you were to say that those were equivalent, while it's true that one is twice as good as the other one, if you get the item and are able to use it 5 or 6 times, so let's say that you're able to get redemption so early that you're able to use it like 6 times before you're able to get Warmogs and do, anything with Warmogs. 6 times 500 would be like, what, 3,000? So you would have to now heal in the few instances where you do get Warmogs. You would have to heal like 3,000 to get this just the same flat healing value as you do from a redemption. And even if you get the same flat healing value, it's coming later in the game, and any positive impact earlier in the game is better because it's a snowbally game where the team that's further ahead gets stronger and stronger and stronger. So anything that can help you earlier is better. Keeping in mind that you're also sacrificing rune slots in order to do this. Like I said, you're delaying your build and can get redemption faster if you're not going this rune setup as well, because you could potentially be going treasure hunter and magical footwear with hail of blades, or you could be going guardian and have magical footwear, which is going to accelerate your redemption by even harder when you're comparing it to Warmogs. Basically, at the end of the day, I just think that Warmogs is too expensive for support, and it's not translating it into enough value in game. I think the idea of being able to walk out during the middle of a team fight and regen half of your HP with Warmogs and then re-enter the fight is a fantasy that we're never seeing happen. Like maybe one in like 20 or 30 games, you get a game where you have a team fight or two where you're able to actually get the item early enough and then have a fight play out exactly the way that you want it to, where you don't get hit at the right times and you're able to position in a way that you're able to walk out of the fight for a while. The other thing that I think is deceptive about this is the build is being sold as 3 seconds and you heal all this health from Warmogs. Because that sounds nice and 3 seconds sounds reasonable, but here's the math, right? You actually heal 25% of your HP every 5 seconds. So in order to heal half of your HP, you need 10 seconds plus the 3 point whatever seconds to activate it. So you need to be out of combat for 13 seconds just to heal half your HP. To heal to full, you need like 23 seconds. That's not practical for the middle of a team fight, right? That's never going to happen. The only application would be if you're going to have a skirmish and then immediately have a skirmish again after that, like 2 fights right back to back within like 30 seconds of each other. That's the only time in which you're getting value out of the item. Now that's just not going to be the case for support. It's also going to encourage overstaying and not resetting enough to get your wards and things like that. So my verdict is, after trying this item and after watching other people try this item, I think it's a bit of a bait. I think that using Ingenious Hunter to decrease the Warmog's activation time is an ingenious use of the rune, but you should not be building it on Braum. I've seen people building this on Zillion, which I think is really nuts. If you want to use this rune to do this, do it in top lane or do it in jungle where the item's actually, decent on the champions. Again, I've always said that Warmogs is an item that should be built by top laners who are, you're late game on a tank and you need to hold a side lane for a while before you both TP up to a Baron fight. You're playing Ornn or something like that into a Fiora. If you're, it's for or you're playing Shen, you're playing champions where you need to hold a side lane versus somebody and you're getting out traded every wave and you're losing a lot of HP every wave. And the only way to continuously clear the wave and not lose all pressure in the side lane is for you to be able to regen all of your HP with Warmogs in between the waves. And even then there's the argument that you don't even, for that use, right, does activating the item 3 seconds earlier or having an extra 3 seconds to heal does that really even change that much for that Shen or whatever? Probably not, especially when they could be going, once they get to the team fight, they could have items that have more impact in the team fight as well, like a Rookern or Frozen Heart. Maybe as a third item, Warmogs could definitely work on a Shen or a tank that's holding a side lane. And maybe you want this rune to do that, because I think it's a very smart use of the rune. Other items work like this as well. So for example, even the amount of time that you have to be out of combat in order for a Canik Rookern to give you a new shield, this is also affected by Ingenious Hunter, but it doesn't really change anything in a crazy way. So it looked like it had a lot of potential, but it's being sold as you're going to dip out of a team fight and then heal all this HP and then run back in, and so you're going to get like 1,000 healing per fight, which is better than you would get with a redemption, but you're not getting 1,000 healing per fight. You can see these games, we got 8 games and we got one example of us actually using the item, and in the game where we are using the item, we're healing for like a couple of thousand. I don't even think that that's better than you would get out of a redemption, and you get access to redemption earlier in the game. So maybe that item, maybe Warmogs was on par with redemption in that one game, but what about the other 7 games we played where we didn't get to use the item at all? So, I definitely don't build this on support. We're moving this item back into the never category for Braum. I hope you guys enjoyed and have a good day in solo queue.